Hello, good morning. I'm Dr. Anil Kumar, Professor of Medicine, MS Ramaya Medical College, Bangalore. Uh, the concept of heart sounds, cardiac cycle has been fascinating for me for over the decades. I thought I'll give an introduction about the heart sounds, the pathophysiology, the normal S1, S2, the lub and the dub. So we'll see how it comes in the cardiac cycle. So this is the schematic representation of the heart. As you can see, this is the right ventricle, right atrium, left atrium. The left ventricle opens into the aorta, the right ventricle opens into the pulmonary artery. So after having briefly understood about the anatomy of the heart, now we'll see the hemodynamics or the physiology of the heart, the cardiac cycle in fact. Okay. So if you see this diagram, we'll start from here. It's the mitral valve closing. So what happens is the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve close almost simultaneously. During this, after closure of the mitral and the tricuspid valve, there is a phase of isovolumetric contraction. So the heart starts contracting. It contracts, and at some point of time, it opens to the aorta from the left ventricle and to the pulmonary artery in the right ventricle. So when the pressure is more in the left ventricle compared to the aorta, suppose the pressure in the aorta is about 80. So once the pressure in the left ventricle becomes 81, the valve opens. Valve opening is not, it's silent. There are no sounds in that. But the closure of valves, which happens, causes sounds. This mechanism of S1 is closure of the tricuspid valve and the mitral valve. That is the mechanism of S1. Valve closing causes sounds. Valve opening doesn't cause sounds. So as you can see, once the aorta and the pulmonary artery opens, there is ejection of blood. So the blood goes out to the systemic circulation and the pulmonary circulation. So once the pressure difference again between the aorta and the left ventricle, pulmonary artery and the right ventricle drops, there is closure of the aortic valve and the pulmonary valve. So because of the greater pressure difference occurred in the left side, the aortic valve closes first, followed by the pulmonary valve. So A2, P2. There are two components for S2, A2 and P2. A2 is always before P2. So again, closure of the valves produces the second heart sound. So S1 and S2 are systolic sounds. Okay. Then there is a phase where there is isovolumetric relaxation of the ventricle. The ventricle just relaxes. There is no inflow of blood. The volume is the same, isovolumetric relaxation. Then what happens? There is opening of the mitral valve and the tricuspid valve. So valve opening again is silent. Unless there is a pathology, valve opening is always silent. Blood gushes in from the right atrium and the left atrium. That is the filling phase, what you see in the diagram. Filling phase of the ventricle. Filling occurs in diastole. So, trying to correlate this with the heart sounds. As I told you, S1 starts with the closure of the mitral and the tricuspid valves. S1. There is a phase of isometric contraction. Then there is a rapid ejection phase, there is slow ejection phase which happens there. Then there is S2 caused by closure of the aortic and the pulmonary valves. Aortic first, followed by the pulmonary valve. Then there is a phase of isometric relaxation. So there you have S3 and S4. What is the mechanism of S3 and S4? So as you can see, S3 and S4 are due to filling of the blood. S3, there is a rapid turbulence of blood which comes to the left ventricle. There is a rapid turbulence of blood which sets the ventricular valves to vibrate. That causes S3. And in the final phase, what happens is the atrium contracts and pushes some more blood into the left ventricle. So this again causes the vibration of the ventricular valve. So S3 is due to turbulence of the blood due to the rapid inflow. S4 is due to the atrial contraction. You call it as atrial kick. So S4 is atrial kick. S3 is rapid infilling of the ventricle. These two are diastolic sounds. S3 and S4 are diastolic sounds. So S3 is due to the rapid filling of the ventricle. S4 is due to the atrial kick, atrial contraction, which pushes some more blood into the ventricle. So this is the pathophysiology of heart sounds. So as we know, we can make a lot of diagnosis with this heart sound. So where do we get S3 and S4? S3 and S4, S3 can be physiological. Suppose it's a young child or a young girl, or there is a hyperdynamic state. S3 is quite common. It can be physiological, but S4 is always abnormal. S4 indicates that the compliance of the ventricle is impaired. So atria has to kick with more force to let in the blood inside the ventricle. So S4 is always abnormal, whereas S3 can be physiological. So what you should remember is the key points. Valve closure causes heart sounds. So the closure of the atrioventricular valves, the mitral and the tricuspid valves causes S1. The closure of the aortic and pulmonary valves causes the second heart sound. Valve opening, unless there is a pathology, is silent. S3 and S4 are diastolic sounds. S3 is due to the rapid gushing in of the blood. S4 is due to the contraction of the atrium. So this is in brief about heart sounds and the mechanism by which they are produced. So now we'll go to the second heart sound. The second heart sound is the most important heart sound as far as I am concerned. It's very crucial in making a diagnosis. So whether there is a pathology or not, and whether there is a congenital heart disease or a valvular heart disease, whether there is pulmonary hypertension, based on the split, we can make a lot of diagnosis with S2. As far as popular opinion, against the popular opinion, more than the intensity of the second heart sound, it is the splitting which is more significant. So we'll go to the details of the second heart sound. To continue, the concept of hangout time is very important with respect to the second heart sound, and the reason aortic component of the second heart sound comes prior to the pulmonary component is very important. It's very important in the sense you can make a lot of diagnosis, you can say what is normal, what is abnormal. So as you can see, this is the graphic representation of the first heart sound. This is the graphic representation of the second heart sound. The phase between the first heart sound and the second heart sound is the systole. So this is the pressure tracing in the left ventricle. This is the pressure tracing in the aorta. Again, this is the pressure tracing in the right ventricle. This is the pressure tracing in the pulmonary artery. So if you see the incisura, what we see the notch in the descending limb of the aortic pressure curve, it occurs much earlier compared to the incisura, which occurs much late in the case of pulmonary artery. So the hangout time in aorta is 10 milliseconds, whereas the hangout time in the pulmonary artery is about 60 milliseconds. So the reason for this delay in the pulmonary artery incisura is because of the increased pulmonary compliance, and relatively the right ventricle is a weaker ventricle as compared to the left ventricle, and the pressure gradients occur in the left ventricle are much higher as compared to the right ventricle. So that causes a delayed hangout time in the right side of the circulation, that further causes the delayed P2. So A2 appears first, P2 appears later. The reasons being increased compliance in the pulmonary circulation, which further increases on inspiration. That's why you get the split in inspiratory phase of the respiration. Then the pressure gradients across the left-sided circulation are much higher. These two are the basic mechanisms why A2 occurs first and P2 occurs later. Now there are certain things which can happen with the second heart sound. That's why I say it's a very important heart sound as far as cardiac diagnosis is concerned. So this is the physiological splitting. As you can see, during expiration, S1, S2, there's not much of splitting. A2 and P2 are almost together like a newly married couple. Whereas in inspiration, S1, and there is a split. The A2 appears first, and after some gap there is a P2. This occurs in inspiration. Why does this happen? In inspiration, suppose I take a deep breath, so the negative pressure inside my chest increases. There is increased filling of the right ventricle. That is one mechanism. There is reduced filling of the left ventricle. That's the second mechanism. And the pulmonary compliance is increased. So that causes a delay of the pulmonary component of the second heart sound. So in inspiration, there is a split between A2 and P2, well appreciated in children and thin-chested individuals. So there are certain variations which can happen with the split in the second heart sound. So this is wide physiological split. I'll tell you the causes for it. Here the split between A2 and P2, there is a definite split. So when do you say there is a definite split? You appreciate the split when the patient is sitting up. You appreciate the split when the patient is standing. You appreciate the split even during expiration. So normally what you see is only during inspiration. But even if there is a split during expiration, then it indicates there is a disease. Next, you have a wide fixed split. So you can see there is S1, there is a split between A2 and P2. This split is fixed in the sense it is the same when the patient is lying down, when the patient is sitting, when the patient is standing. It is same in all areas of the chest, whether it is the apical area or the basal areas. It is same across all areas of the chest, and the split is fixed. Okay. In the phases of respiration also, whether it's inspiration or expiration, you get the same split. This is wide fixed split. Why does this happen in atrial septal defect? So this happens because there is a almost like a single atrium. Because of the shunting between the left and right atrium, at any given time, either it is inspiration or expiration, there is a fixed amount of blood in the atrial chambers. That causes the wide fixed split. Okay, so at any given time, the keywords are either it is inspiration or expiration. Because of the shunt between the left and right atrium, there is a same volume of blood in either inspiration or expiration. That causes the wide fixed split. Next, you have the paradoxical split. Till now, what did we learn? That the A2 comes before the P2. In paradoxical split, what happens is the P2 comes before the A2. So what causes this? How to recognize that, I'll be telling you in the next few minutes. So next, going on to the wide physiologic split. So this can be due to the A2, P2, P2 coming late. Okay, the pulmonary component coming late. So this can happen due to electrical delay of the right ventricular systole. So there is a delay in the right ventricular systole that causes the P2 to come later. So A2, P2 comes much later. This can happen in right bundle branch block, or if there is a pacing wire in the left ventricle, or there are ectopic beats which originate in the left ventricle. Next is prolongation of the right ventricular systole. This happens in pulmonary stenosis and acute carpulmonale. And increased hangout interval. I have explained in detail regarding the concept of hangout interval. So whenever there is dilatation of the pulmonary artery, again there is increased hangout interval, which causes the P2 in turn to come late. Okay, so that is wide physiological split, A to P2. P2 comes bit late, so that is wide. So wide and fixed splitting of the second heart sound. The classic case is that of atrial septal defect. So that is due to increased hangout interval or prolongation of the right ventricular systole, as happens in atrial septal defect. Prolongation of the right ventricular systole, which happens in right ventricular failure. Now I was talking about the paradoxical split. So instead of A to P2, there is P to A2. That is paradoxical splitting. That happens due to electrical delay of the left ventricular systole, which happens in left bundle branch block. Or there is a pacemaker in the right ventricle. It causes a reverse of the split. So the pulmonary component comes earlier to the aortic component, and prolongation of the left ventricular systole happens in aortic stenosis and ischemic heart disease. So in all these conditions, LBB, right-sided pacing, aortic stenosis, ischemic heart disease, you can have a paradoxical split. Paradox is instead of A to P2, there is P2 and A2. Moving further, the common question in the exams is you hear so many sounds. You don't know whether it is a opening snap, whether it is a pulmonary component of the second heart sound, or it is a paradoxical split. It is quite a challenge to diagnose this on the bedside. So three important things which I find useful are location, hemodynamic maneuvers, and friends, the associations of the heart sounds. These three will help you in making a diagnosis of whether the sound is an opening snap, whether it is an S3, or whether you are dealing with a case of paradoxical wide split. So in case of how to differentiate an opening snap from the third heart sound. So the opening snap, as you know, is along the left sternal border. It's best heard with the diaphragm of the stethoscope, and it's best heard in the left sternal border, whereas S3 is best heard in the apex. It's a low pitch sound. It's heard with the bell of the diaphragm, and it's best heard in the apex. So O2 is a sort of a movable sound that you should remember. Whenever you try to differentiate opening snap from the pulmonary sound or from S3, whatever it is, opening snap is a sort of mobile sound. So it separates further from A2 on standing. So P2 comes at a fixed interval after A2, whereas O2 comes much later and separates further on standing. That is the speciality of opening snap. And friends of OS. So where do you get opening snap? You get opening snap in mitral stenosis. So what happens to first heart sound in mitral stenosis? The first heart sound in mitral stenosis is loud. That is the classic feature of mitral stenosis. So loud S1 is a good friend of opening snap. Next you go to how to differentiate between A2 P2 and the A2 opening snap combination. So the second sound in left sternal border is the opening snap. So you hear two sounds, first sound and the second sound. So if you hear a better sound along the left sternal border, that's the opening snap. Okay, so that's the opening snap. Then what happens, as I told you, normally what happens, the split, the normal split is wider in inspiration or found only during inspiration. Suppose you find a split which is wider in expiration, then it is a opening snap. Suppose the split widens on standing, it is a opening snap. As I told you, Opening snap is a sort of very flexible. It moves and makes its identity easier to make out. Again, the friends of opening snap is loud S1. Wherever there is opening snap, there is a loud S1 to make a clinical diagnosis. Okay, next we go to the paradoxical wide split. It's a bit of a complicated concept, but you should try to understand. So how do we make a diagnosis of paradoxical wide split? So you keep your set along the left sternal border, and from there you go towards the apex. So from the left sternal border, if you go towards the apex, if the second component of the sound reduces, that is A2P2. If the first component of the sound, you are hearing two sounds. So if the first component of the sound reduces, it is P2A2. Another way, from apex to the right intercostal space, from the apex to the right intercostal space. So when you are going like that, again there will be two sounds. If the first sound is more dominant, when you go from the apex to the right intercostal space, it is A2P2. If the second sound is more dominant, when you go from the apex to the right intercostal space, it is P2A2. So maneuvers I told. So all right-sided sounds except the pulmonary click become louder on inspiration. So the P2 becomes louder on inspiration. What you have to remember is it should be normal inspiration and normal expiration. You should not try to do a forced inspiration or a forced expiration. It should be a normal inspiration and a normal expiration. So the sounds are all right-sided sounds except the pulmonary click increase in intensity in the inspiratory phase. So that is characteristic of P2. And during Valsalva, you know what is Valsalva maneuver? So usually what happens is there is coming together of A2 and P2. Okay. In paradoxical split, because P2 is before the A2, there is widening of the split in Valsalva maneuver. Again, you have to suspect a paradoxical wide split. So as you know, I am very fond of evidence-based medicine. Whatever clinical science you say, when you are in the classroom or when you are practicing, we read so much of theory about the heart sounds, we make a diagnosis of this, that, and keep talking about all that. But Steve Maggie is my teacher and I go by evidence-based medicine. So what is the value of a clinical sign? What is the weight of a clinical sign? That is determined by EBM. So after sorting through all the things about second heart sound, only two facts I got which were of relevance to clinical practice were, in the second heart sound, fixed wide splitting detecting ASD. So the sensitivity is 92%. Okay, so as you can see, it is very sensitive. Specificity is 65. And the likelihood ratio of finding being present is 2.6. Not very high, but not very bad also. So 2.6. So wide fixed splitting, making a diagnosis of ASD clinically is quite reasonable. It's a good clinical sign. Next, we keep talking of loud P2, and someone will ask you, how do you say it is loud? Compared to what is it loud and all that. But based on evidence, based on Steve Maggie, more than the loud P2, palpable P2. That's a component of loud P2, but palpable P2 has more value. It has a sensitivity of 96% in detecting pulmonary hypertension, specificity of 73% in detecting pulmonary hypertension. If you see the likelihood ratio, again it is 3.6. So in the second heart sound, finally to say in a gist, wide fixed splitting in making a diagnosis of ASD is evidence-based fact. Number two, palpable P2 in detecting pulmonary hypertension is evidence-based fact. Rest all is theory for advanced cardiologists, or if you have a phonocardiographic recording, you can make a diagnosis. But clinically, bedside, for a physician, I think these two are the most important clinical signs. Thank you.